So many of the world's beaches offer peace, tranquility, and a place to beat the heat. But there are some beaches out there that offer something much different. These unique stretches of sand defy what you think a beach should look like. They've got unique and unexpected features like bioluminescent waters and surreal landscapes. So for today's video, we're going to count down the top 15 weirdest looking beaches on Earth. Number 15. Maho Beach. When you hit the beach, the only thing above you should be clear skies. That is, unless you're trying to soak up some sun at Maho Beach. Maho Beach sits on the Dutch side of the Caribbean island of St. Martin. It's famous for being adjacent to the Princess Juliana International Airport and is a popular site for tourists and plane watchers who visit this beach to watch aircraft on final approach and land at the airport. These planes fly so unbelievably low that taller people could expect a haircut. This is just one of the few places in the world where aircraft can be viewed in their flight path just outside the end of the runway. Watching airliners pass over the beach is such a popular activity that daily arrivals and departures airline timetables are displayed on a board in most bars and restaurants on the beach. It is safe to say that the beach itself isn't all that impressive. If you're coming to Maho Beach, then you're coming for the less than mile-high adrenaline rush because that's not the wind blowing through your hair, it's the engine exhaust. Maho Beach is unusually close to the threshold of a runway and is directly under the flight path, resulting in aircraft on their final approach flying over the beach at altitudes of less than 100 feet above you. There is, of course, the danger of people standing on the beach being blown into solid objects or the water because of the jet blast. Local government warns that closely approaching and departing aircraft can result in serious injury and/or death. Additional fences have been added behind runway 10 in order to prevent people from hanging on to the main fence surrounding the runway. Hanging on to the fences for dear life as the planes come in for a landing has become a favorite pastime for the daredevils since the beach opened. While fighting the engines may sound fun, it's also incredibly dangerous, and people have died in the past. As recently as 2017, as Caribbean Airlines Flight 457 was taking off from the airport, a 57-year-old woman was killed by the jet blast. She was holding onto a fence at the end of the runway when the wind blew her away, causing her head to smash into the concrete. Yeah, and even the internet is riddled with videos of people tempting fate and hanging on for dear life in the face of this jet blast. Number 14. Playa de las Catedrales. Located along the western boundary of the Cantabrian Rasa, along Spain's Galician coast, is a stretch of sand less than a mile long, yet packed with a most unusual series of geological formations. This beach alone proves that Mother Nature had a fondness for flying buttresses millennia before any human engineer patted himself on the back for coming up with that now iconic architectural feature. Officially called the Playa de Aguas Santas, or Beach of the Holy Waters, the beach is more often referred to by the name locals use for its halls of natural wonder. So named in honor of the extraordinary natural rock formations resembling the soaring arches found in Gothic cathedrals. The unusual geology along this particular stretch of coastline gains all the more magic for the fact that its glory is only revealed at low tide. If you want to behold this beach in all its heavenly glory, then you need to get there at precisely the right moment. As the waters recede, a vista of natural arches, cliffs, and sea caves are revealed. These arches themselves reach a stunning 90 feet in height, while deep eroded caves stretch back into the cliffside. Connecting all these features are sandy patches formed by the schist and slate of the rocks themselves. This place has become a popular destination for those who feel a more holy kinship with nature or seek to experience the touch of a divine in a new, unexpected setting. Strolling among these rocky outcrops and exploring all these nooks and crannies at low tide is encouraged, though keeping a vigilant eye turned towards the returning sea is a must. Thanks to the region's coastline, the ocean can at times return alarmingly quickly, because once high tides come in, all traces of these cathedrals and those basking in their glory will be inundated until a new cycle starts, revealing the secrets lying beneath their waves. Number 13. Bombay Beach. In 2010, the United States Census Bureau measured the population of Bombay Beach, a census-designated place in the Imperial County, California, at just 295 people, which was down from about 366 10 years earlier. The community is so small because the rising Salton Sea drowned part of this trailer community, and it never recovered. The Salton Sea is an incredibly dangerous one for those living in the surrounding communities. Bombay Beach, along with a number of others located on the east shore of this body of water, deals with rising and falling water levels. A berm protects the west end of what now remains of the town, but a large portion of it that was once destroyed has been abandoned. Now it's either sitting underwater or stuck half buried in mud. The ruins of Bombay Beach attract hundreds of visitors who enjoy touring ghost towns or otherwise forgotten plots of land and photographs. As far as altitude is concerned, it is one of the lowest settlements anywhere in North America. In addition to amateurs, Bombay Beach attracts a number of professionals. The town once hosted a crew of Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations for the Travel Channel, and it was the filming location for part of the fictional made-for-TV movie The Big One, The Great Los Angeles Earthquake. Before it was destroyed by the Salton Sea, Bombay Beach was meant to be a playground for the rich vacationers of the 1940s and 50s. It was designed to be the Californian version of the French Riviera, but the rising salinity in the Salton Sea created a major bird and fish die-off and a series of floods from tropical storms in the 1970s. This area never recovered. The few remaining residents today live in trailers where they hide out from the blazing sun. The only inhabitants of the once bustling beach resort are the skeletal remains of fish and the stench of rot that they left behind. Number 12. Playa del Amor. A gaping hole in the surface of the lush green island opens onto a secret beach with ample shade, sun, and crystal clear water. Playa del Amor, commonly known as the Hidden Beach, is a feature of one of the Moreta Islands, located some 22 nautical miles west of Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, at the mouth of the Banderas Bay. It looks like something out of a fantasy novel, a wide sandy cavern with blue waters of the Pacific rushing in. These islands are a group of uninhabited islands formed by underwater volcanic eruptions. They're natural wonders in their own right, but it was something other than the volcanic activity that brought the burrowed beach to light. It's rumored that the hole that created the Hidden Beach was a result of deliberate bombings. The Marietta Islands have always been completely uninhabited, making them ideal sites for military testing by the Mexican government. Beginning in the early 1900s, weapons and artillery were tested on these islands, a safe distance from Mexican citizens, but not so safe for Marietta's topography. This beach formation is anything but natural. These test bombs are known for the cause of many caves and rock formations on the island, possibly including the Hidden Beach. In the 1960s, scientist Jacques Cousteau led a protest against harmful human activity on the islands. In 2005, the islands were finally named a national park, making swimming, kayaking, and other forms of recreation the only activity and prohibiting hunting and fishing around the islands. Also, later on, the park was designated as a UNESCO MAB Biosphere Reserve. Extensive military testing damaged flora and fauna on the islands for decades, but many years of peace have replenished the island's pristine waters and marine life. The Hidden Beach is invisible from the outside and is only accessible through a long water tunnel that links the beach to the Pacific Ocean. There's about 6 feet of space above water level, so visitors can arrive at the beach by swimming or kayaking. These islands remain uninhabited, but are frequently visited by tourists who come to enjoy the diverse marine wildlife and the unique tropical Eden of Playa del Amor. Number 11. Las Playitas. Finding an oasis in the desert is rare, but what about the beach? Well, anything is possible in the Cuatro Ciénegas Biosphere Reserve, sometimes called the Mexican Galapagos. It's a lagoon, but the pristine white sands and the glistening expanse of water that extends beyond the eye can see help explain why it's named Las Playitas, which translates to little beaches. One year, unfortunately, there was a party similar to those you'd find in Cancun at spring break. This has never been allowed to happen again, and now the Las Playitas is only accessible with a guide who will personally unlock the gate and drive you down the long bumpy dirt road to the lagoon shores. After you've admired the beauty from a safety of the shoreline, visitors can explore the water in a kayak or even take a long walk around the lagoon. Of all the pools here, Las Playitas is the most expensive, ideal for exploring by foot from the shore or traveling through on a vessel. Poza Azul is also ideal for observing these blue hues, and El Rio Mesquites is perfect for swimming, so plenty wanderers come here to see what they can find in this little oasis. You'll find cactuses dotted around the crystalline waters as you explore the lagoon, and if you look beyond the desert, you'll see the mountains on the horizon. This makes for some bizarre optics. Where else would you find scenery such as this? Maybe in the mind of a surrealist painter. An aquatic environment in the desert is certainly paradoxical. It's a pretty unique location, especially when viewed from above. The surrounding area is incredibly brown, dry, and vast without much natural life, but all of that beauty is juxtaposed with the pure blue of the water. Las Playitas, it's definitely worth an addition to any traveler's bucket list. Number 10. Point Spencer. There's a real gem of a beach out in Alaska, just shy of the Arctic Circle, where Alaska's Seward Peninsula stretches westwards towards Russia. There's an almost improbable sliver of land. Point Spencer sits at the northern tip of a miles-long narrow spit of sand, gravel, and permafrost that's less than 100 feet wide in places. To the east is Port Clarence Bay, where depths can exceed 40 feet, an anomaly amid the region's shallow coastal waters. To the west is the wild and unforgiving Bering Sea, home to winter storms that regularly churn out waves 45 feet or taller. In between, the site that's now Point Spencer has at various times been hundreds of miles inland or completely inundated by the sea. It's witnessed waves of human dispersal over millennia and has served as both an intercontinental marketplace and a Cold War military outpost. Now, as another chapter for Point Spencer begins, it can be seen in a dazzling way. Magnified 10 times, sand originally collected from one of its beaches appears as glittering semi-precious stones. These jewel-like particles represent a wide range of minerals, including moss-green olivine, blue-green glauconite, and iron-rich orange-colored quartz. For thousands of years, the spot that's now Point Spencer was more than 500 miles inland, a landmass that connected Asia and North America during the last ice age. The first humans arrived in the Americas via this corridor, both on land and following the coast. As the climate warmed, the ice sheets melted and rising seawater inundated this place. This area around Point Spencer was one of the last spots left high and dry and only sank beneath the waves about 6,000 years ago. As the modern coastline took shape, the glacial meltwater flowed into the sea via Lamruk Basin and the estuary to the east. Like most of Alaska, the Seward Peninsula is geologically complex, and the water collecting in the basin carried a variety of material, each with its own mineral composition. Volcanic rock from an ancient lava field to the north, silty sediment washed in from the tundra, and even specks of gold from the mountains to the south. Currents whipping in a hook-like shape beyond the estuary deposited disparate bits of rock and sand and organic matter along a curve between the Seward Peninsula and the open sea, creating this spit over time and keeping Port Clarence Bay free of silt and other sediment. Number 9. Hemlyn Pool. Situated within a sheltered bay on the coast of Western Australia, Hemlyn Pool appears at first glance to be a moderately interesting rock-strewn beach. Those rocks, though, look kind of odd. Are they a lava flow or some arcane tectonic process? Well, these rocks are not actually rocks. Rather, they're active colonies of one of the first life forms on the planet. These rock-like objects that appear at the Hemlyn Pool in remarkable numbers are called stromatolites, and they're made by single-cell organisms called cyanobacteria. Previously known as blue-green algae, cyanobacteria came onto the scene about 3.5 billion years ago, well before the existence of any other complex life form. They are the oldest type of photosynthetic organism in the world, so old in fact they predate plants by a couple of billion years and provided the Earth with most of the oxygen in the atmosphere necessary for supporting subsequent life forms. Additionally, cyanobacteria are the earliest and were for 3/4 of the Earth's history the main reef-building organism thanks to their peculiar stromatolites. They're formed using sediment trapped in the sticky cyanobacteria's mucosal secretions, which is then cemented within calcium carbonate produced by the tiny organism. With a colony of millions of bacteria carrying out this process, the stromatolite grows over time at a rate of approximately 0.5 millimeter per year. While stromatolite fossils, some of them 3.5 billion years old, have been found around the world, the stromatolites of Hemlyn Pool were the first living specimens ever discovered. Accidentally happened upon by oil surveyors in 1956, living stromatolites remain extremely rare, now known to only exist in a small handful of places around the world. Hemlyn Pool contains the most abundant and diverse collection of living stromatolites, thanks to the hypersaline water, twice the salinity of normal seawater, that allows this cyanobacteria to thrive and keep would-be predators at bay. These stromatolites are also the easiest to observe, thanks to the clear, shallow water and boardwalk that's been built out into the water, allowing visitors to see these ancient formations without disturbing their habitat. There's also a museum in the nearby historic Hemlyn Pool Telegraph Station that includes an aquarium containing the only living stromatolite in captivity in the world. Number 8. Spiaggia Rosa. You'd think that pink beaches only existed in the mind of Dr. Seuss, but on the Italian island of Budelli, they're a reality. At the Italian Mediterranean's magical Spiaggia Rosa, or pink beach, a unique melange of marine matter gives the sand a peculiar pink pigment. Spiaggia Rosa is one of the few places on the planet to have pink sand. As a result, it's one of the most unique spots on the Italian Mediterranean. The brilliant color here comes from a concoction of crushed fossils, crystals, coral, and dead marine creatures, which blend together to tint the sand with a rosy blush. In the past, the beach here was a lot more pink, but decades ago when tourism to Bou Delhi began to surge, visitors began to steal the pink sand to sell it elsewhere or keep it as a souvenir. This depleted the amount of pink sand on the beach, and as a result, the Italian government made it illegal for any tourist to set foot on the beach in 1994 to preserve the beach's brilliant hue. During the summer, visitors are allowed to take day trips to the island as long as they stay off Spiaggia Rossa. They can look but not touch the beautiful sand. When it comes to protecting the pink sand of Bou Delhi, the Italian government doesn't screw around. When New Zealander banker Michael Hart attempted to establish an eco-friendly resort and biological observatory on the island in 2013, the Italian government responded by blocking his proposal in an effort to preserve the environment. Hopefully, with efforts like these, the pink sand of Bou Delhi will not wash away for a long time. Number 7. Iona's Beach. Hopefully, this next odd beach on our list sounds good. Iona's Beach is a hidden gem. Instead of silky, golden sand, this stretch of shore is covered in smooth pink rocks that, if you know when to listen, they sing. The beach sings its signature song as the waves come in and disturb the rocks. When the stones resettle, they tinkle like millions of little bells. It's a soft sound, so you have to stand fairly still and be quiet to hear it. The unusual musical concert isn't the only thing intriguing about this beach. Even when Lake Superior is calm and the air is silent, the place still feels magical. The pink rocks, which formed here from fallen pieces of a nearby rhyolite cliff, are an eye-catching sight on their own. The stones, worn and weathered by the years of erosion, are all wonderfully smooth to the touch. The beach is also one of the 3 scientific and natural areas along the lake. It was named after Iona Lind, who owned the resort that once stood on the spot where the beach's parking area is now. Number 6. Papakoalea Beach. About 6 miles from the south point is Papakoalea Beach. There are beautiful cliffs, a clear blue-green Pacific Ocean, and green sand. Unbelievably coarse speckled green sand. It's the only beach with green sand in the United States, and one of only a small handful in the entire world. Despite its remote location, accessible by a miles-long hike or a 4-wheeler, it's a site on Hawaii's Big Island that is worth the hassle. It's situated beneath Mauna Loa, the world's largest volcano. A unique mix of chemistry and geology is combined to form this bizarre and beautiful sandy environment. Over thousands of years, Mauna Loa's eruptions have formed a massive cinder cone that encircles around it to create a small bay. Like many of Hawaii's volcanoes, the eruptions brought tons of minerals to the surface, including an abundance of the semi-precious mineral olivine. It brought so much of it to the surface that much of the cinder cone surrounding the bay is made from this silicate mineral. As the cinder cone eroded, most of the other ash and glass from the eruptions were washed out to sea, but the denser chunks of olivine survived the tides and caused the beach to turn a rare green color. Since the last eruption was about 10,000 years ago, a short time in geological terms, but a long time in an active volcanic region, the beach is actually living on borrowed time. Not because of another coming eruption that will destroy the beach, but in fact because of a lack thereof. The supply of olivine is slowly running out. Although it washes away slower than other minerals, it will eventually all erode, turning Papakoalea Beach back into a normal one. For professional tanners and those who appreciate geological novelty, the time to plan a trip to South Point is fast approaching, and you may only have a few more millennia to see the distinctive beach. Number 5. Shell Beach. Shell Beach. It's one of only 2 beaches in the world composed entirely of shells and was created by a unique combination of geography, climate, and marine vegetation. Shell Beach now sits on a narrow isthmus within Shark Bay, a peculiar inlet on the coast of Western Australia. Shark Bay is a UNESCO World Heritage Site thanks to the proliferation of unique marine life found in the area and its waters, including dugongs, relatives of manatees, Indo-Pacific bottlenose dolphins, who use tools, specifically sponges, to protect their noses while they scour the seabed for food, various whales and whale sharks, and the largest seagrass bank in the world. That last one might seem underwhelming, but it contributed to the formation of Shell Beach. Shell Beach wraps around the southern end of Louarden Bight, one of the most interior precincts of Shark Bay. As a bay in a climate with more evaporation than precipitation, located within a larger bay featuring a massive seagrass bank blocking initial tidal flow, it boasts a salinity level twice that of the ocean. This phenomenon is known as hypersalinity, and it's favorable to the survival of some marine animals like cockles, and it's quite unfavorable to those animals that normally eat these cockles. Thus, it's been a veritable cockle paradise for thousands of years, allowing the little bivalves to propagate, flourish, die, and have their shells wash up on shore over and over and over again. The volume of cockle shell matter produced here is so great that it becomes compressed into a special form of limestone called coquina, which was mined around Shell Beach for the construction of buildings in nearby Denham until UNESCO protection began in 1991. Today, special licenses are still granted to mine shells as a source of calcium for mulch and poultry feed. The hypersalinity of this place keeps out predators of humans as well as cockles, making Shell Beach a popular place to go for a swim. Number 4. La Rotunda del Mar. Puerto Vallarta's bustling seaside boardwalk in Mexico is a sunny tourist walk covered in palm trees and shops. But hiding out in the open along this otherwise idyllic stretch of Mexican beachfront is a circle of surreal bronze statues that look like some hellish union of chair and nightmare. Known by the innocuous moniker La Rotunda del Mar, or the Rotunda by the Sea, the surprisingly sinister installation is the work of Guadalajaran sculptor Alejandro Colunga. The 8 bronze thrones, unveiled at the end of 1996, are positioned at irregular intervals around a stone circle, with the sea lapping right up to the edge. The tall, amorphous chairs are topped with impressionistic sea creatures like an octopus and a seahorse that seem to be part of the thrones themselves. Many of the seats are also supported by the legs that end in claws or organic feet, making them seem like strange, eldritch monuments. They seem to have been designed with whimsy in mind, but the dark, Lovecraftian influences can't help but shine through. The artist created these chairs to be interacted with, and they invite visitors to sit in them, and most of them have patches where the bronze has been rubbed to a golden sheen from all that attention. Even in the warm Mexican sun, the Rotunda by the Sea sits silently as though it's waiting for the robed priests of an arcane secret order to take their places in this circle, each sitting on their appointed throne uttering a word of power that sounds like the cold of space, waking a sleeping Lovecraftian old god from beneath the waves, unleashing madness on the vacationers, sipping their delicious margaritas on this eldritch scene of a boardwalk. Number 3. Dead Horse Bay. With a name like this, what's not to love? Like most of New York City, Dead Horse Bay has a long history of changes. Over the years, much of old New York has been torn down, replaced, torn down again, and replaced again by new buildings and people, and the layers of history are all but forgotten. Not true at Dead Horse Bay, where remnants of the past litter the beach today. Along Millstone Trail near the bay, a millstone is left over from the 17th century, when Dutch settlers used the water for tide mills to grind wheat into flour. So how on earth does a place like this earn such a name? Well, the bay was christened sometime in the 1850s, when horse rendering plants still surrounded the beach. Dead Horse Bay sits at the western edge of a marshland once dotted by more than 24 horse rendering plants, fish oil factories, and garbage incinerators. From the 1850s until about the 1930s, the carcasses of dead horses and other animals from New York City streets were used to manufacture glue, fertilizer, and other products at the site. These chopped up, boiled bones were later dumped into the water. This squalid bay, then accessible only by boat, was reviled for the putrid fumes that hung overhead. It is pretty gross. As the car industry grew, horses and buggies became scarce, and by the 1920s there was only one rendering plant left. It was during this era, around the turn of the century, that the marsh of the Dead Horse Bay began to be used as a landfill. Filled with trash by the 1930s, the trash heap was capped only to have the cap burst in the 1950s and the trash spew forth onto the beach. Since then, the garbage has been leaking continually onto the beach and into the ocean from Dead Horse Bay. Thousands upon thousands of bottles, broken and intact, many over 100 years old, litter the shore. Other hardy bits of trash pepper this beach of glass, leather shoe soles, rusty telephones, and scores of unidentifiable pieces of metal and plastic. The beach is usually pretty empty, conjuring a quiet, eerie post-doomsday kind of a scene. The horses aren't quite gone either. Found throughout the bay are 1-inch chunks of horse bone, a somewhat unpleasant reminder of Dead Horse Bay's pungent past. As of 2020, Dead Horse Bay is officially closed to the public. Thank God for that. Number 2. Schooner Gulch State Beach. At the edge of the Pacific Ocean, the beach at Schooner Gulch State Beach near Mendocino looks as though it's been scattered with oversized bowling balls. Almost perfectly spherical, about 2 or 3 feet in diameter, stones like these have caused wild speculation wherever they've been discovered, with answers from aliens to dinosaurs, but the answer is actually simple geology. Best observed at low tide, the so-called bowling balls are actually a geological phenomenon known as concretion, sedimentary rock formed by a natural process wherein mineral cement binds grains of sand or stone into larger formations. These boulders are the result of millions of years of concretion and erosion, exposing the hard spheres as the mudstone of the cliffs recedes around them. Although rare, this same phenomenon is what created the extraordinary Moraki boulders and Kwotu boulders in New Zealand, Cannonball River in North Dakota, and the Valley of Balls in Kazakhstan. A peculiar story stands behind the Schooner Gulch name. The story has it that one night a schooner was stranded on the beach, but the following morning visitors could find no evidence of the vessel on the beach. It's definitely a strange beast, and if anyone ever does decide to travel here, just make sure to drop a pin. Number 1. Assateague Island. Final beach on our list is a great place to horse around. This 37-mile-long island belongs to 2 states, 3 conservation agencies, and 2 herds of feral ponies. Every year, the ponies are rounded up to swim across the channel to Virginia. Located off the eastern coast of the Delmarva Peninsula, Assateague Island is a designated National Natural Landmark, with 2/3 of the island in the state of Maryland and the remaining third in Virginia. The entirety of the island is owned by 3 different agencies: the National Park Service, Maryland State Parks, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. While no humans live on the island, herds of feral ponies have been inhabiting Assateague for hundreds of years. The ponies are remarkably well adapted to their feral island lifestyle, living off dune and marsh grasses and drinking from the island's freshwater ponds. There is some debate as to whether the ponies are in fact ponies genetically or horses who have gradually become smaller in stature due to their environmental adaptations. There are various theories surrounding the origin of Assateague's feral equines, but a local legend has it that they're the surviving ancestors of a shipwreck that happened off the coast hundreds of years ago. There is some evidence to suggest there may be truth with that story, as the captain of the Spanish galleon La Galga historically recounted wrecking his ship within 2 ship lengths of the Maryland-Virginia border in 1750. A number of treasure hunters have sought the sunken galleon to no avail, but recent findings suggest that the ship may actually be buried beneath the sand of Assateague Island, as the beach has been built out and the coastline has changed significantly over that time. Maritime historian John Amrine has petitioned to lead an archaeological excavation of the site where he believes La Galga has been buried, but has been met with some opposition and still awaits permission. The pony population is rounded up annually by neighboring Chickateague Island's volunteer fire company for the Chickateague Pony Swim. The self-proclaimed saltwater cowboys herd the wild ponies across Assateague Channel during low tide to Chickateague, where they're corralled and later put up for auction, benefiting the fire department. Ponies are bid on for either personal ownership or as buybacks, which in case the ponies are returned to their island home for another year of feral roaming. Thank you to our channel members.